My sister Stella had always been the golden child, the kind of golden that blinds people, the kind that makes parents squint at everyone else. So when she announced casually, smiling across the dinner table, "I set my wedding date, same day as yours," no one gasped. No one questioned it. They laughed. Like it was clever. Like it was charming. Like it was harmless. The candlelight flickered across her perfect curls, catching the gloss on her lips. She didn't look at me immediately. She let the silence settle first. Then, "You're fine with that, right?" Her tone was soft. But it wasn't a question. It was a challenge. I kept my hand steady around my water glass. Condensation pooled beneath it, cold against my skin. "Of course," I said. They mistook my calm for surrender. They always did. What they didn't see was the planner already resting in my bag, or the strategy quietly forming behind my eyes. 2 months later, that same family table would fall silent for a very different reason. I learned early that silence was safer. The first time I understood silence could protect me, I was 8. Stella stood on our front porch while Mom adjusted her curls for a local clothing catalog shoot. "Smile wider, honey." Mom's voice was warm, gentle, devoted. I stood 3 feet away, holding my lunchbox, waiting for someone to notice I was leaving for school. No one did. That morning, I walked alone. I remember thinking, if I make less noise, maybe it won't hurt as much. In school, I worked harder than anyone. Straight A's, perfect attendance, awards. When I brought home a test marked 100 inches red ink, Dad barely looked up from his tablet. "Don't make your sister feel bad," he said. So I folded the paper carefully and slid it into my drawer. That became a ritual. Fold the proof. Hide the effort. Shrink the shine. On my 13th birthday, the cake had both our names on it. "We thought it would be cute," Mom said. Stella blew out every candle before I inhaled. I clapped for her, even when my hands stung. Becoming useful. Dad worked long hours at an insurance firm. He liked order, efficiency, predictability. So I became those things. I washed dishes before being asked, balanced small household bills, organized paperwork. "You're reliable, Clara," he'd say. It never sounded like love. It sounded like a performance review. When I told Stella about my high school crush, just once, she smiled at me through the mirror while I braided her hair. Then she asked him out. When I cried, Mom sighed. "He prefers pretty girls. Don't be dramatic." That was the last time I shared something fragile. College funds went to Stella. She needs it more. So, I got a job instead. I moved out at 22 into a small 1-bedroom downtown. White walls, ticking clock, shelves lined with color-coded files. I liked order. Order didn't betray you. The engagement. I met Ethan at work. He wasn't loud. He wasn't showy. He listened. He noticed when I spoke. He didn't interrupt. When he proposed, it was simple. Just us. No audience. I said yes without hesitation. When Stella found out, she congratulated me. Then, 3 months later, she got engaged too. Of course she did. Our wedding date was set first. Venue booked. Invitations drafted. Deposits paid. Everything documented. Everything confirmed. Which is why her call that Tuesday night wasn't coincidence. It was strategy. "So funny thing," she said lightly, "we booked the same date. The same building. 2 halls. 1 floor." I stared at the circle in my planner, marking my wedding day. "Yes," I said calmly, "I'm okay with that." She sounded relieved. She shouldn't have been. The plan. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. The skyline outside my Chicago window was gray and still. I opened my planner. Confirmed. Do not move. At 8 a.m., I walked into the office. I'd worked advanced logistics for 9 years. Long enough to understand influence. Long enough to understand attendance patterns. Long enough to understand power. Ethan's father, Mr. Vance, was the CEO. Quiet, observant, strategic. I drafted an internal memo. Formal invitation, Vance Miller wedding attendance. Encouraged for all upper management. Not mandatory. Encouraged. Then I saved it. Later, I called the venue coordinator. We'll upgrade to the grand ballroom. She hesitated. The other party booked the secondary hall. I know, I said. We'll take the larger one. By the end of the week. Executive RSVPs confirmed. Live string quartet booked. Catering expanded. Press photographer added. Parking reserved for senior staff. Every confirmation was a silent shift. Every RSVP redirected gravity. Stella thought she was stealing a spotlight. She didn't realize she was handing me the stage. The night before, Mom called again. Your sister's nervous. She thinks you might be jealous. I'm not, I said. You're such a good girl. Not anymore. I steamed my dress, checked my planner, placed it by the window. The ink circle glowed in morning light. The wedding day. 2 signs stood in the lobby. Ballroom A, Vance and Miller. Ballroom B, Stella and Nathan. Same day, same building. 2 truths. Our ceremony began at noon. Crystal chandeliers. Soft quartet music. Executives filling rows. Ethan stood at the altar, steady and certain. When I said, I do, the applause felt earned, not loud, but full. Through the tall windows, I caught sight of Stella in the courtyard below. Her expression wasn't glowing. It was confused. Half her guest list hadn't arrived. Corporate clients had followed the influence. Attendance shifts quietly when power moves. And power had moved. The entrance. 30 minutes into our reception, the ballroom doors opened. Mom, Dad, Stella, Nathan. They froze. They saw the crowd. The executives. The photographers. The board members. Stella blinked. Why are my guests here? Nathan looked pale. These are my clients. Mr. Vance stood slowly. 2 weddings, he said calmly, his voice carrying through the microphone. But only one belongs to my son. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was surgical, clean. Mom tried to recover. We didn't realize. You didn't have to. Mr. Vance replied gently. Some people only understand order when it stops, including them. Stella turned to Nathan. You said this would embarrass her. Nathan stepped back. You said she'd shrink. Cameras flashed. Whispers spread. I didn't move. I held my glass the same way I had at that dinner months earlier. Still, measured, unshaken. Mr. Vance nodded to staff. They were escorted out politely. No shouting, no spectacle, just removal. As the doors closed, the quartet resumed. Music swallowed the disruption, and balance returned the morning after. The city felt washed clean. Sunlight poured across the kitchen counter. Our marriage certificate lay flat beside my planner. For years, I folded proof of myself small enough to hide. Yesterday, I unfolded everything. No screaming. No revenge speech. No confrontation. Just boundaries drawn so clearly they couldn't be ignored. Ethan leaned against the counter. You okay? Yes, I said. And for once, it was true. I opened the planner. Drew a clean line under the final entry. Vance Miller wedding. Completed. Then I closed it. Silence doesn't mean weakness. In families like mine, power shouts. But real power? It withdraws. And when it does, the room learns what silence sounds like. It isn't empty. It's earned.